We're back, like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of this Monday morning here with me in New York. Once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. Well, I haven't had an episode dealing with games, or specifically card games, and even more specifically poker, in a really long time. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Jerry Seinfeld would say. But last night, thanks to a free entry, I was incredibly fortunate, and I got a free entry into Global Poker's Eagle Cup 8. This is the 8th year of the Eagle Cup series of events. And I got a free entry into the main event, which had a guaranteed prize money of $200,000. Now, that just means that even if they don't have quite as much registration as they hope, they were guaranteeing that the total prize pool would be $200,000. And I don't care who you are, that's a lot of money. Now, that doesn't mean you win $200,000 if you win the tournament. The way that it worked out, first place was just under $34,500. Second place was $25,000. Third place was $19,000, and fourth place I think was just around $14,000 or $15,000, and then it goes from there. So there were more than 1,000 people entered into this particular tournament, and they did a thing where you could rebuy. So if the entry was $99, so I got the free entry, so it was the equivalent of me paying $99, but I didn't have to pay the $99 to enter. But if you busted out of the tournament within the first hour, you could rebuy and get the same stack that you started with. It was 6,000 chips for $90. And then you had the opportunity after the first hour if you wanted to add on chips for another $90. So in theory, you could be in for as much as $279 if you did the 99 and then the 90 plus the 90. You'd be in for $279. Now, the problem with that is only the top 153 people cashed. And by cash, it's just exactly what you think, that if you finish 154th in this particular tournament, you make nothing. Whatever was your outlay is what you lost. If you finish 153rd, you got $300. I think it was $300. So then you would have made $21 in the run out that I described, where somebody paid $99, busted out early, and then did the add-on. So 4 years ago, some of you know this, but in 2020, I won an Eagle Cup event, not the main event. I was entered into the Tournament of Champions as somebody who had won a trophy event, but I crashed out. I just missed the money. You needed to finish in, I think, the top 15, and I finished like 18th or 19th. It was something like that. But I took down Progressive Bounty tournament. I think it was the Eagle Cup for 10L, no limit hold'em, 4,000 guaranteed Progressive Bounty. And as any poker player will tell you, when you're in these multi-table tournaments, when you're in these long, multiple hour tournaments, you're not just going to win by playing great poker. Playing solid poker certainly helps, but you are going to have to get lucky, and you're going to have to avoid getting unlucky. These are the two most important things. And when I won that tournament in 2020, I played some really solid poker. I consistently got the chips in good, but I also didn't get unlucky. If I had aces against kings, I held. If I had ace king against ace queen, I held. There were a couple of spots where I lost pots, but I didn't get kneecapped at any time. And then at the final table, which was miraculous that I made it to the final table, it seemed like I was the short stack. The last two tables, I was in 18th place, and then I just started to creep up, and I had a couple of spots where people happened to make just ridiculous moves without realizing, oh shit, this guy's got kings. I had a huge spot where a guy with king 7 went all in right in front of me against my pocket kings. Like, it was just, you need stuff like that in order to win when you're facing hundreds of players. So when we got down to the final three at the Eagle Cup 4 that I ended up winning, I had ace king, I all in ace king, and the guy turns over pocket aces, flop, 2 kings. I end up winning. That guy busts out. And then I won the tournament a couple of hands later because I was in second place at that point, and the chip leader was the one with the aces, and he was kneecapped, as I say, and that was that. I ended up winning. But I only won because I got incredibly lucky. I got the chips in bad, and the poker gods were on my side. So I didn't go into last night expecting or like, oh, I can win this. I was hoping to cash because you say, look, if there's, for example, if there's 1,000 players and you know the top 150 or so will cash, yeah, by statistics, you've got a 15% chance of cashing. So I was just saying, hopefully I cash. I took a couple of small pots early, nothing crazy, and then I started trending downward. I started, going down, and I caught a couple of breaks. I had been getting nothing but garbage, and then there were a couple of hands where I had the better of it and ended up losing on the river. Not big pots, but the sorts of hands where if I had simply bet the turn, I probably would have carried a pot. I wasn't playing as well as I could, and I also was just wasn't getting good starting positions. So I was mostly folding, but I was telling myself, just have to survive. You just have to survive, and all it takes is one little break, and you chip up, and you go from there. And as luck would have it, I was one of the shorter stacks. I was in the bottom 10%. The blinds were starting to creep up. And I got dealt pocket aces under the gun. Now, there are a lot of ways to play pocket aces in this kind of tournament when there are 8 other players. But the general rule of thumb is, if you know that you have aggressive players at your table, you don't immediately fire, especially if you're like me and you come across as somebody who is a nit or very tight player. We say nit because we're not taking unnecessary risks. We're not necessarily trying to steal pots. We're just playing ABC poker, as Antonio Esfandiari is fond of saying on TV. He's playing ABC poker. So pocket ace is under the gun. I flat. A player about 2 or 3 to my left bumps it up. And then another player, before it comes back to me, goes all in. Now, I have aces. I know I'm going to be in the lead. Maybe someone else will have aces. But that's why you do that. That is why you, quote unquote, slow play the aces, because with so many players to act behind and you're at a table with aggressive players, somebody's going to bump it up. So I call, and then the guy to my left calls. I turn over aces. The guy to my left turns over ace, king unsuited. And then the other guy, who had an enormous stack, turns over king, queen, also unsuited. Not surprisingly, I triple up. That's how I ended up even getting within range of the final table, because I was so short and stacked. The triple up at least got me to where I was almost an average stack, and I still didn't get that many great hands or great situations. But the key hand as far as cashing was, we were in the 200s. We'd already been playing about 4 hours. It was 12-minute levels, so each hour was 5 levels. And to give you an idea, you start at 25.50 big blinds, and by the time I was out of the tournament, the big blind was 20,000. That's how crazy this gets. People say, well, why don't you just keep folding? You can't. You're going to get blinded out if you keep folding, because the antes and blinds just keep accelerating. But the hand that allowed me to cash, I had pocket fives. I was down to about 5 or 6 big blinds. I was in the big blind. And when it came to me, I shoved all in. And a guy called, a big stack called with ace jack. And here comes an ace on the flop, and I'm already saying, all right, well, I gave it a good effort, but I'm going to fall about 50, 60 slots short of cashing. And just as I'm thinking that, here comes the 5 on the turn, set of 5s. He's fucked. He can't beat. And if for those who know poker, the game got very, very slow. It got very slow when there were less than 200 players left, and people start calculating, ICM pressure in the money or not in the money. You begin to play differently because you can tell, do I have any chance to win this tournament or go deep? Or should I simply fold everything until we get to the money? And the game slowed down, but then I had another double up where I got dealt aces again, and I took a guy who had kings, and he did not improve. And that's how you have to do it. That's how you go deep in these. That is how you outdo 1,000 players in a tournament that has, 1,050 or whatever the final tally is. So it got into 160, and then finally we realized, okay, everybody still alive is guaranteed at least 300. But that's not good enough. If you have a stack, you say, you know what, I get a double up, and then maybe something else, and I'll be among the leaders. And you always want to believe that you have a chance to win. But if you're down to like 5 big blinds, this way you can look as far as your stack in big blinds or in terms of actual chips. It looks better if you have actual chips. If the big blind is 20,000, it almost feels more comfortable to look at 100,000 in chips than say, oh, geez, I got 5 big blinds. But I made it all the way into the 60s and 50s and into the 40s. And I busted out. I had pocket threes. I was in the big blind. I was down to 4.5 big. So with the big blind being 3-3, it's 20% of my stack. I can't fold. And it's a pocket pair. So even if somebody turns over ace king, for example, I'm still at least 50-50 and probably the betting favorite to win. But I ended up shoving against pocket kings, and I was out in 42nd place. But it was fantastic because I had all those moments where didn't expect to win hands, didn't think that I was going to cash, and I got deep, and I didn't even have to pay to get into the tournament in the first place. And as I posted, for those of you who know my Instagram, it was $640 for 42nd place. And you think about the incredible disparity. Now imagine this, and if some of you are maybe not big poker players, but you've seen the World Series of Poker and you understand things like final table. Well, this particular tournament, the Eagle Cup main event, as I mentioned, first place was just about 34,500, second place 25, and third place 19,000. So keep that in mind. First place. Now, the final table, the last 9 standing. So I would have needed to survive another 33 eliminations to make the final table, because when you get into the top 50, you begin to calculate. There were only 5 full tables left. Me finishing in 42nd. First place 34,500. Ninth place 2,300. That was the difference. A $32,000 difference between finishing ninth or finishing first. You want to talk about a jackpot right there, metaphorically speaking. That is crazy. Now, I have had tournaments where I went deep. I remember the Santa scrimmage. I ended up making about $450 for that one a number of years ago. And I watched the final table, and there was some crazy shit at that final table where you had a guy who was just going all in with any 2 cards, and he knocked a couple of players out. He cracked aces with 5 deuce. It was totally absurd. Now, I don't know what happened at the final table last night. I kind of wish that I had hung in to watch it. The guy who ended up finishing ninth was at a number of tables where I was, and he had a runaway lead on me. He had about a 7-1 lead when I busted out of the tournament. He wasn't the guy that knocked me out. I hope that nothing bad happened. I hope that he didn't have aces cracked by 6-7 suited or something. But when you get that close, when you get to a final table with that amount of, I'm sorry, life-changing money. I don't give a fuck. You're talking 34 plus, you're talking 25,000, you're talking 19,000 plus. In almost all cases, that is life-changing money. So, congratulations to the winner. I forgot the name. I think his name might be Bluefish was his screen name, but I didn't take note of the others. The only one that I knew was this guy, as I said, that I played with for about 2 hours of the tournament. We seemed to keep getting stuck at each other's tables, and he took a few pots off me. I think I maybe got 1 off him, but it wasn't anything significant. But super exciting. It's hard to explain. It's sort of stressy fun because you're on the edge of your seat consistently once it gets deep and you start running out of time and you just have to make moves or, hope to get lucky in certain instances. But a great experience. And honestly, if I hadn't gotten the free entry, I wasn't going to pony up. I haven't been playing that much poker. I've been busy. I've been doing, I hate to say it, real adult stuff. I'm not a professional poker player. I'm not even a top amateur. I'm just a guy who used to be a professional blackjack player who understands he will never be as good at poker as he was at blackjack. Now, the irony of blackjack is I was better than the next 999 people that you would see sitting down at a blackjack table. As a card counter, I was very, very good. Doesn't mean you're going to win every time. You're going to win more often than the average person. But you can still go out there and get the shit kicked out of you repeatedly, because there's no guarantee that the dealer's not going to draw all those blackjacks that you saw in the movie Rain Man. But poker is more fun, even if there is the stress in a tournament such as this where there's a lot at stake. It's more fun, and it is more intellectually challenging. Ironic, me being a former card counter and somebody that can still count down a deck in 15 seconds. But poker is more intellectually challenging because, well, blackjack, either you win or you don't, right? Either you end up with 20 and the dealer has 19, or you break, or the dealer breaks. In poker, you don't necessarily have to have the best hand to win. Sometimes you throw a big bet out there with king high and a guy with pocket sixes is throwing his hand away. That's what I love about poker. And also, you're not on 100% of the time. There are breaks, and there are going to be 20 minutes worth of hands where you're doing nothing but folding, and you can give your brain a little bit of a recharge. Now, maybe having had this incredible run, making good money in a tournament that I wasn't even going to play, maybe I'll get back into it to a greater extent. But it was awesome, and congratulations to the winner and top finishers. It's just such an incredible sense, because I've won tournaments, as I said, the Eagle Cup 4, which was great. I got a trophy. I got to cut a commercial and a social media ad. I was briefly a kind of social media star in the poker world. When I went to Florida to visit my mom the following time, a dealer at Coconut Creek said, "I know you, don't I?" I said, "I don't know, do you?" He said, "Global?" I said, "Yeah." He had seen the commercial that I cut, and that's where he recognized me, because he himself is a big poker player and occasionally played on Global. I thought that was pretty funny. Felt like a star, just about the only time. But yeah, that was my experience playing in the Eagle Cup 8 Global Poker's main event, the 200,000 guarantee. I didn't win, but I had an incredible deep run. I was playing for 5.5 hours, and yeah, we made some money, and let's just see, maybe the next one we'll run that one up too. But this has been episode, I believe we're up to 353 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for joining me on this Monday morning here in New York. And if you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode, probably another movie-themed episode, real soon. Till then, peace.